Welcome back, everybody, and good morning to you. There was a resounding appreciation on the last video we did where we analyzed the rep ranges for hypertrophy-based movements, so we're back at it again. Another video today focusing just on our leg movements. Now, we've gone over what these rep ranges mean and what the abbreviations stand for in a previous video, but I will throw up on the screen right now a graphic explaining to you what these various rep ranges mean, what the abbreviations stand for, so that you can get the best understanding possible and that I don't have to read it verbatim for you. What I want us to be focusing on today, most importantly, is our MAV and MRV rep ranges. That's going to be our maximum adaptive volume and our maximum recoverable volume. Now, as a reminder, these are rep ranges for those intermediate to advanced lifters, individuals who've got probably at least 2 years under their belt, maybe even more. But for you novice lifters, there is still going to be good information here for you as well, because as I let another commenter know, I really do believe that if you've got a good solid 6 to 12 months under your belt, these rep ranges can be pretty darn close to what you're looking to achieve, but you're probably still going to want to be aiming for the lower end of these rep ranges. One thing to note about the quads, the hamstrings, and the glutes is that it's going to be very rare to truly isolate one of these muscles and not incorporate one of the others that we're discussing today. Meaning, when you're working your quads or your hamstrings, you're almost certainly also including your glutes. And when you're working your glutes, you're almost certainly working your hamstrings too. That's because these compound movements like deadlifts and barbell back squats are going to engage multiple muscle groups at the same time. Thus, when we talk about these rep ranges, we're talking about isolated work as best as possible. Obviously, with the barbell back squat, you're never going to truly isolate the quads, but there are ways to position your feet and legs to isolate them more and not involve so much of your glutes, for example. So, what about our hamstrings? Well, as you can see here, we should be looking for rep ranges anywhere from 2 all the way up to more than 20 per week. And again, those lower numbers are because with most of the exercises we're doing, we're still going to be involving our hamstrings a little bit. So even with only 2 additional sets per week, you can expect to be making some kind of growth or maintenance of those hamstrings. I would advise starting with the per session rep ranges in the MEV range of about 4 to 6 just to see where you land. And if you do that 2 to 3 times a week, that's going to keep you in between the values of your maximum adaptive volume and your maximum recoverable volume of 6 to 12 and 12 to 16. Now, ideally, you're only doing 1 exercise per session with your hamstrings. They do not need a lot of volume or variance in these exercises. They're very prone to getting a lot of work done with very little overall volume. So if you're doing 1 exercise per session, you might only consider doing 2 to 3 different exercises per week for your hamstrings. When you're doing those, you're going to be wanting to shoot for rep ranges somewhere around 10 to 20, but adding in heavier sets or even some lighter sets with higher reps are also going to be beneficial in your weekly trainings. But 10 to 20 reps really should be the staple for your hamstring movements when we're talking about hypertrophy. Now, let's move on to quads. Just like with our hamstrings, the recommendation is going to be to start out with that minimum effective volume, which for our quads is also going to be 4 to 6 sets. Now, as you can see, our maximum adaptive volume and maximum recoverable volume are slightly different, being 6 to 14 and 14 to 18 sets per week. But our rep ranges are also going to be around the same from a hypertrophy standpoint. We're wanting to really get 10 to 20 reps per set, but again, going higher can be good and lower can be good as well. The caution going with lower is that especially if you're doing barbell back squats to really develop your quads, you do add additional risk for potential injury when you're doing those heavier sets, and that's obviously also going to put some bigger strain on your spine. Generally, we want to be sticking to 1 to 3 exercises per session. That's going to bring you to about 2 to 5 per week. It's nice to be able to change things out, people. It's nice to not have to do the exact same exercise 2 or 3 times a week. So really stick to 1 or 3 exercises per leg session that you do for your quads. And if you can get that all done in just 2, well, then only do 2 exercises. There's nothing saying that you have to get 3 exercises in there that are different from one another. In reality, for all of these, if you're looking to do your maximum adaptive volume, as an example, of 6 to 14 sets, well, you could do all of those with 1 simple exercise. but a little bit of variation is nice. I would certainly not want to see you do 14 total sets in a week of just back squats when you could be throwing in some leg extensions or some lunges to just spice things up just a little bit and give you some variety that might keep you a little bit more interested and focused in the work that you're doing. And again, that's going to go for every exercise we ever talk about. A little bit of variety is the spice of life. It can help alleviate boredom from workout to workout or even in the middle of a session, but it's also going to help lessen the overall strain that's being put on your body by doing one single exercise. The strain you experience from a barbell back squat is going to be slightly different than what you would experience from, let's say, a hack squat or a leg press. So there is going to be some benefit to swapping those out and not putting the exact same type of strain on your body time and time and time again. That's why you see me loving barbell back squats overall. I love the movement, but I also absolutely love my belt squats because the belt squats allow me to take all that pressure and strain off of my spine while still loading my quads to extreme amounts and getting a lot of work done without continuing to strain my spinal column. Now, lastly, but certainly not leastly, we're going to talk about our glutes today. I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, but I want to stress it again because it's so important with our glutes. Training our quads and training our hamstrings is almost certainly going to have some added training benefit to our glutes. Both sets of those muscles, when worked properly, can and will engage our glutes depending upon the exercises that we're doing. Of course, some of them are going to activate the glutes more and some will activate them less. Placing our feet in a certain spot will activate it more or less. There are lots of little factors in these equations. But with that said, with these numbers that you see on the screen, these are the volume recommendations for hypertrophy for dedicated glute training. And as you can see, that maximum adaptive volume is going to be anywhere from 8 to 24 sets. That's a wide range. And the maximum recoverable volume is going to be 24 to 30. Just like with the others, we're looking for ideally rep ranges of 10 to 20, but more or less does have benefits in overall growth as well. And you're going to want to keep it to maybe 1 or 2 different exercises per workout or 2 to 5 per week. Again, you don't need 5 total exercises in a given week. You could really just do 2 or 3 just to keep things interesting for yourself and switch it up from time to time. However, with our glutes, you will benefit from a compound movement like a sumo deadlift, as well as doing a hip hinge movement like hip thrusts, as well as some variation of lunges every single week just to fully work the glute as much as possible and as many different variations as possible that will benefit it. Now, of course, we need to be training our calves too, but I know you guys aren't doing that. All kidding aside, here's what you're going to need to do for your calf development. We're going to be aiming for between 6 and 24 sets per week. The same advice goes that we had for our quads, hamstrings, and glutes. Keep it in a 10 to 20 rep range and you're going to do just fine. Consider a standing calf raise and a seated calf raise for full calf activation and you're going to be good to go. I hope you guys appreciated this breakdown. This information seems to be really helpful. So thanks again for showing up. Thanks for listening and let me know what questions you have down in the comments. I'll see you guys next time.